Every holiday season, the Martin family turned their home into a winter wonderland that was the envy of the entire neighborhood. For years, their yard sparkled with thousands of colorful lights, inflatable Santa Clauses, reindeer, and even a giant Christmas tree made entirely of LED bulbs. Their festive display attracted visitors from all over the town, spreading joy and holiday cheer. But this year, the Martins were about to face an unexpected adversary, their own homeowners association. It started with a letter slipped under their front door, stamped with the HOA seal. The letter accused the Martins of violating community guidelines by having excessive decorations that disturb neighbors and pose a safety hazard. Along with the notice came a fine, a hefty sum that caught the family completely off guard. The HOA demanded they remove at least half of their lights immediately or face escalating penalties. The Martins were stunned. They had never received any prior warnings, nor had they ever considered that their cheerful display might be unwelcome. The patriarch of the family, determined and proud, refused to back down quietly. The letter ignited a fire within him, a sense of injustice that no holiday spirit could extinguish. Word spread fast throughout the neighborhood. Some residents secretly admired the Martins' lights, but dared not speak up publicly for fear of HOA retaliation. Others agreed with the HOA's stance, citing complaints of bright lights shining into bedrooms and concerns about electricity use. The community suddenly found itself divided, caught between tradition and rules, joy and order. Behind the scenes, the HOA board met to discuss the situation. They felt confident they were upholding community standards, but they underestimated the Martins' resolve. As the family began researching the HOA's guidelines and consulting local laws, it became clear that the rules were vague, leaving room for interpretation and challenge. With winter just weeks away, the Martins began plotting their response. They weren't going to let their holiday spirit be dimmed by a bureaucratic ruling. What started as a simple disagreement over Christmas decorations was about to escalate into a full-blown holiday war, one that would turn the quiet suburban street into a battleground of festive defiance, unexpected alliances, and escalating drama. As the Martins prepared to fight back, the stage was set for a confrontation that would not only test their family's unity, but also challenge the very authority of their HOA. What would happen next? The neighborhood was about to find out. The Martins wasted no time responding to the HOA's demands. After consulting with a local attorney familiar with homeowners' rights, they discovered the HOA's excessive decoration clause was vaguely worded and, in many cases, unenforceable without clear standards. Empowered by this knowledge, the family sent a formal letter back to the HOA, politely refusing to remove any decorations and demanding the fines be rescinded. This bold move sent shockwaves through the community. The HOA board, initially confident in their authority, now found themselves facing an unexpectedly tough opponent. Determined not to lose face, they escalated the matter by issuing additional fines and threatening legal action if the Martins did not comply. Meanwhile, the Martins' Christmas lights grew even more elaborate. Instead of backing down, they doubled the decorations, turning their home into a glowing fortress of holiday cheer. Neighbors who had been silent began rallying behind the family, inspired by their courage and festive defiance. Some brought over extra lights, ornaments, and decorations to add to the display, transforming the Martins' property into a neighborhood-wide project. However, the pushback also intensified. Some residents complained about the noise from visitors and the bright lights disrupting their sleep. The HOA started circulating anonymous letters accusing the Martins of selfishness and disrupting community harmony. The once peaceful street was now split, with conversations fraught with tension and whispers of impending legal battles. Amidst the chaos, the Martins organized a neighborhood holiday party at their home, inviting everyone to celebrate together despite the ongoing dispute. The event brought out the best and worst in people. Some neighbors used the gathering to mend fences and build friendships, while others held private meetings to strategize ways to enforce HOA rules more strictly. Behind the scenes, the HOA board met repeatedly, increasingly frustrated by the Martins' refusal to back down and the growing community support they were receiving. They debated whether to take the issue to court, but feared the negative publicity that a public legal fight could bring. As Christmas approached, tensions reached a boiling point. The Martins and their supporters were ready to take their fight public, while the HOA prepared to dig in their heels. What started as a simple fine for excessive decorations had morphed into a battle over community identity, personal freedom, and the true meaning of the holiday season. The stage was set for a dramatic showdown that would not only test legal boundaries, but also challenge the spirit of the neighborhood itself. What would happen next in this epic holiday war? With the holiday season now in full swing, the Martins' festive display became the talk of the town. Local news crews arrived, drawn by the story of a family standing up to an overbearing HOA during Christmas. The Martins welcomed the attention, hoping to highlight their struggle as a fight for community spirit and personal rights. Their home was transformed into a public spectacle, glowing brightly against a cold winter night, attracting visitors from near and far. The HOA board, facing mounting pressure, decided to take the matter to the next level. They filed a formal complaint in small claims court, accusing the Martins of violating community rules and refusing to pay the fines. The case quickly gained traction, becoming a heated battle over what constituted reasonable decoration and how much power an HOA should wield. In the neighborhood, alliances continued to form. Some residents who had previously sided with the HOA now found themselves sympathizing with the Martins' stand. Others, loyal to the HOA, doubled down on their calls for enforcement. Fearing that if the Martins won, it would open the floodgates for rule-breaking across the community. As the court date approached, both sides prepared their cases. The Martins gathered testimonies from neighbors who enjoyed the decorations and even local safety experts who dismissed concerns about hazards. Meanwhile, the HOA presented its community guidelines and letters of complaint from residents disturbed by the lights. Amid the growing tension, a surprising development occurred. A previously quiet neighbor, who had kept herself throughout the ordeal, came forward with her own story of unfair treatment by the HOA. Her testimony exposed a pattern of heavy-handed enforcement by the HOA board, sparking further outrage and calls for reform. With emotions running high, the court hearing became more than just a dispute over Christmas lights. It evolved into a larger conversation about fairness, community values, and the limits of HOA authority. The Martins stood firm, embodying the spirit of resistance against what many saw as unnecessary control. The day of the court hearing arrived amid intense anticipation. The Martins entered the courtroom determined but calm, carrying the hopes of many neighbors who saw their fight as a stand for fairness. The HOA board, equally resolute, presented their case with pointed arguments about community standards and maintaining property values. The courtroom was packed with residents, reporters, and supporters on both sides. The Martins' lawyer methodically dismantled the HOA's claims, emphasizing the vague language of the rules and the family's efforts to be respectful despite their festive display. Witnesses testified about the joy the lights brought and the minimal disturbance caused. In response, the HOA presented a handful of complaint letters and insisted their enforcement was necessary to maintain order. But cracks began to show when the testimony of a previously silent neighbor revealed the HOA's history of inconsistent and sometimes unfair enforcement against certain residents. The judge listened carefully, asking pointed questions about the HOA's rulemaking process and how they applied their standards. It became evident that the Martins' display, though elaborate, was not a safety hazard nor a clear violation. The HOA's lack of clear guidelines weakened their position. After hours of deliberation, the judge delivered a ruling that surprised many. The fines against the Martins were to be rescinded, but the family was encouraged to reduce the brightness slightly out of respect for sensitive neighbors. The judge also recommended the HOA clarify their decoration policies to prevent future disputes. The courtroom erupted in quiet murmurs, a mix of relief, celebration, and contemplation. The Martins' victory was a symbolic win for personal freedom and holiday joy, but also a reminder that community harmony requires balance and communication. Outside the courthouse, neighbors gathered to congratulate the Martins, many admitting the fight had exposed deep flaws within the HOA leadership. Calls for board reform grew louder, and several members faced pressure to step down in favor of more reasonable leadership. Though the holiday war had reached a legal end, its ripple effects were only beginning. The neighborhood was forever changed, now awakened to the power of standing up for one's rights and the importance of respectful celebration. As winter gave way to a new year, the Martins' home remained a beacon of light and hope, A reminder that even in the darkest times, a little festive spirit could ignite change. In the weeks following the court ruling, the neighborhood buzzed with renewed energy. Many residents, inspired by the Martins' victory, began voicing concerns about the HOA's leadership and its heavy-handed policies. Neighborhood meetings grew larger, transforming from routine gatherings into passionate forums where residents demanded transparency, fairness, and reform. The HOA board, shaken by the public backlash and the courtroom defeat, faced growing calls for new elections. Several board members resigned amid pressure, while others promised to overhaul the rules and better communicate with residents. It was clear that the community no longer accepted unchecked authority. Meanwhile, the Martins took the high road. They toned down their Christmas lights just enough to respect neighbors' comfort, but continued to celebrate in style, encouraging everyone to embrace the holiday spirit in their own way. Their home remained a symbol of joyful resistance and unity. As spring approached, the neighborhood's atmosphere shifted from tension to collaboration. New leadership emerged, focusing on community-building events and balanced guidelines that honor both tradition and peace. The holiday war had sparked a much-needed conversation about what it meant to live together respectfully. Reflecting on the battle, the Martins knew their stand was about more than just lights. It was about fighting for fairness, community, and the right to express joy without fear. Their story became a legend in the neighborhood, inspiring others to stand firm when facing injustice. The epic holiday war had ended, but its lessons endured, a shining example of resilience, hope, and the power of family united in celebration. Months later, the Martins' neighborhood had transformed. The HOA was no longer seen as a strict enforcer of arbitrary rules, but as a community partner. Residents collaborated on setting guidelines that balanced personal expression with shared respect. The infamous holiday war had opened doors for dialogue and empathy. The Martins continued their festive traditions each year, their lights now a beloved feature of the community's celebrations rather than a point of contention. The family's courage had not only preserved their holiday spirit, but also rekindled the true meaning of community. News outlets revisited the story, highlighting how one family's festive defiance sparked change and brought neighbors closer together. The Martin story served as a reminder that sometimes standing up against unfairness lights the way for a better future. As the years passed, the neighborhood flourished with new friendships, joyful celebrations, and a shared respect born from conflict and resolution. The holiday war became a legendary chapter in the community's history, a tale of lights, resilience, and the enduring power of holiday cheer. And every winter, as the Martins' home shone brightly once again, neighbors gathered to celebrate not just the season, but the spirit of unity that had emerged from their greatest challenge, the end.